You thought it was love. She said the right things, gave you just enough affection, made you feel like you were the most important person in her life. But now you're feeling anxious, a bit addicted. You're confused and you're kind of starting to spiral. You're starting to lose your mind. You're starting to lose your cool a little bit. Now you think back and you wonder, did she really love me? Or was she trying to manipulate me? This is one of those topics that's difficult to talk about because the difference between love and manipulation is often just a hair's breadth. But it's that difference that either makes or breaks your relationship. What real love feels like. Real love feels safe, consistent, and grounding. It doesn't always make you feel anxious. It doesn't always make you wonder where you stand with the other person. You don't have to guess whether or not that person cares about you. For instance, if you're dating somebody who's very involved with their career, they will often be busy. And it's natural at the start of the relationship to feel like things are on the rocks because things are still being built. That bond is still being developed. So you wonder if the other person is ignoring you, if they're actually just busy, or if they're talking to somebody else behind the scenes. And the difference is when that relationship does develop into an official thing, you'll know that the other person is just busy. You won't be nearly as anxious, even if you miss them during the day, even if you wish you could talk to them every single second, every single hour of the day. You'll know that that other person isn't replying to your text just because they're busy, not because they actually don't want to talk to you, and not because, of course, they're talking to somebody else. That's what I mean when I say love is consistent, love is safe, love will make you feel grounded. If you're an anxious type of person, you may always be just a little bit anxious. And yeah, a part of that isn't really your partner's fault, but a good, healthy, secure partner will want you to be secure with them. They'll want you to know where you stand with them. And part of what keeps that polarity alive when it comes to your partner is reaching out to them so that you can know where you stand with them. And there's nothing wrong at all with doing that. And there's nothing wrong with your partner reassuring you as many times as needed exactly how much they still care about you, how much they think about you, and how much they want you. Real love grows over time. And I know that seems so obvious, but here's what you've got to understand. Many times when we start out a relationship or we just start dating this person, we really want it to work out, so we'll overlook a lot of their flaws. Unfortunately, over time, those flaws will start to appear more and more and more because that's who the person really is. And maybe it's not right to call them flaws. It could be just how the other person is. What tends to happen is after the honeymoon phase ends, you start to see compatibility issues with your partner. This is when the bond really starts to shine or it will fizzle out completely. This is how people get stuck in loops because once the honeymoon phase ends, you get to see the other person for who they truly are, and oftentimes you're not compatible at all. That's when the fights start, that's when the arguments start. Real love lasts after the honeymoon phase ends. Whenever things dip into normalcy, whenever that bond actually starts to solidify, and you know exactly where you stand with the other person, partly because you know who the other person is, and they know who you truly are as well. But when it comes to toxic couples, people who just want to manipulate each other, people who are projecting their future plans or their future needs onto their partner, they have a lot of compatibility issues that ends the relationship repeatedly, and they want to constantly pick it back up. They want to constantly give it another try because they think there's really something there. And it's like, yes, what's there is what you're putting there. And what you're putting there is nothing more than your own future planning. It's a mask that you're making the other person wear. This is here. This is what I'm looking for in a partner. Wear this. And you try to make them wear it 24/7. But of course, that's not who the other person is. That's why compatibility issues arise so early with some couples, and why some couples only last a week or two, because you're not really compatible. Even if the sex is good, even if you guys get along well as friends, you'll never be good as lovers. Real love communicates honestly. That means I'm not afraid of upsetting you, and you can't be afraid of upsetting me. That means I've got to be able to communicate with you difficult things, even if it upsets us both. Real love respects the boundaries that the other person draws. And every single person is going to draw some kind of a boundary that's going to seem a little bit ridiculous. Some women will throw a fit if you go into their house with your boots on. Some men do not like to be bothered when they come home from work. They want to just relax and de-stress for an hour. There are quirks to dating your partner, just like driving any car, that's going to be unique to that vehicle or to that dynamic. And oftentimes we try to fix our partner or make them react or act exactly how we would. But we don't want to date us. We want to date them. We want to know them. We want them to love us, and we want to love them. So we've got to let them be their own person, and real love lets them be free. Don't forget, in every single one of these videos in the description is my link. Click it, schedule something with me, let me know what you're going through. Real love feels like peace, not adrenaline. And I get that when you're first dating that other person and you get all the feelings, the butterflies, the nervousness, and all of it's like horrible and ugly and great, and it's a wonderful feeling all at the same time. But over time, those feelings solidify itself in the bond that you have with that other person. And sometimes whenever those highs fade, the other person leaves because that's all they were really chasing. They didn't care at all to get to know you. They didn't really want to know the type of person that you are. All they were really here for was that high that you gave them. Now they're going to go on to the next person and get the same high from them. Those types of people only chase the honeymoon phase over and over and over and over and over again. That's why those same types of people get into relationships, date other people that only last for a couple weeks to a couple months at the most. Again, real love feels like peace. It's not the constant adrenaline spike that you'll get from dating somebody who's toxic. What does manipulation look like? Number one, hot and cold behavior. She's into you one day, and then the very next day she's cold as ice. Now don't get me wrong, a woman's emotions are going to be all over the place on a daily basis. But there's always going to be a pattern to her, to your unique woman. And again, this comes back to feeling safe inside of the dynamic you and your partner have. When the smallest things set off your partner and cause them to explode, maybe punch a hole in the wall, or causes her to immediately jump on Tinder, to stonewall you, to give you the silent treatment, to complain about you to her friends, to hit up her sisters, to hit up her parents, to go stay at their house for a while. When these things are done on a weekly basis, you've got a very manipulative partner that simply cannot get control over you. So what they do is they throw a hissy fit because they can't get their way. All of that is just a means of regaining control. And even when they come back to you, even when they apologize to you, it's not a real apology. They're just telling you they're sorry so that they know how far they can push you next time. See, all they know is that this current method didn't really work out, so they'll try something else in the future. You better believe they haven't forgotten this one bit. They're going to continue this argument at a later date and time just to really throw you off balance. They want you to think that everything is fine, that the argument is over, that they're coming home, that they're not going to complain about you anymore, and that they're a different person in less than 24 hours. But it's that hot and cold behavior that keep you in the loop, because they want you to remember how hot and how heavy things were with them, so that during the cold times when they're treating you disrespectfully, you'll still stay and you'll still put up with them. Number two, guilt tripping and gaslighting. This is when they make you feel bad for setting boundaries. And I typically find this with men when they tell their woman, I don't want you going out dressed like that. Or whenever the waiter is a little bit too flirty with your girl and you tell her not to even look at him. And she looks at you like, oh, he's just being friendly or something like that. But you're saying, hey, this boundary here, you need to stay inside of. I'm not okay with you leaving this boundary. This is when they'll start to guilt trip you. They'll start to gaslight you into thinking nothing's going on, nothing's wrong, because a securely attached woman who wants to stay in that relationship with you, and ladies, this goes for you too. I'm just saying it from a man's point of view. Your partner will want you to know they don't have eyes for this other person. They just have eyes for you. That's why they don't mind putting down the waiter or putting down anybody who tries to hit on them, especially when they're with you, brutally. They will straight up tell them, I'm in a happy, loving relationship and there's no way in hell I'm going to sacrifice that for your fugly ass. If your partner is not willing to piss off other people for you, they're willing to entertain them in their DMs. Think about it. Eventually, this level of disrespect and boundary pushing will go so far that your toxic partner will make you apologize for setting boundaries in the first place. It's like, how dare you not let me treat you however I want? How dare you think that you have even the slightest bit of self-respect? That's hard to say when you're 8 rolls deep at Red Lobster, but self-respect is like $13.99 and I'm not willing to pay it. Number 3, it's the weaponized affection. If your partner only shows you love whenever you listen to them, that means they're not really interested in how you feel or what you do with your life. They're only interested in you if you obey them. This is why they withhold affection as a punishment. This is why they give you the silent treatment, why they leave you on red for hours at a time or for the majority of the day. This is when you start to feel like you're earning their love instead of them giving it to you freely. Love doesn't have to be a power struggle. You go there in that relationship to give of your time, to give of your attention, to give of your affection, and the other person doesn't have to do anything to earn it. That is the essence of the divine love in the masculine. The woman that I'm with doesn't have to bring anything to the table but her true, authentic self. This is where the red pill community really gets it wrong. I don't expect my woman to bring a lot to the table besides a really good attitude and someone that I can lean on emotionally when I'm having a bad day. And men, that's why whenever you interact with your woman, you go there to give. You don't go there to lean all of your problems on her. That's why it's so unattractive, men, whenever you come home and you've had a bad day at work and you think you're going to unload your problems on your wife. That's not what she's there for. Why do we ignore these signs? Now, most people can see at least a few of these signs in their partner before the problems even come up. So the question becomes, if we can see them, if we can sense them, why do we even let them come along? Why do we seem to miss the signs? The biggest reason is that we wanted to believe it was real. Oftentimes, we confuse the intensity of the start of the relationship with true compatibility, with true love. But what we really saw was just a highlight reel. We saw their good side, the best they could be, and we started chasing it. And that's exactly what we keep telling ourselves over and over again during those low times, during the bad times. We tell everybody, including ourselves, yeah, but you don't know what they're like behind closed doors. You don't know how good they could be. We fell in love with potential. We fell in love with who they could be, not with who they actually are. Now here's the test. Is it love or is it just manipulation? Let me give you a subtle test that I don't think you'll hear anywhere else. I want you to think back to your partner, and whether or not you're still currently with them doesn't matter. And I want you to think back to your firsts. The first time you slept with them, the first time you told them you liked them, the first time you told them you missed them, the first time you told them you loved them. I want you to think of all the emotional highs that you had with them. And I want you to ask yourself, when did they come? Because here's the difference, and I need you to listen to me. Real love will take an emotional high and will skyrocket it even higher. In other words, your partner rewards the emotional high that they're feeling with you with even more of an emotional high that you didn't think you could reach. For instance, this looks like you're on a date with this other person and you can't believe you're with them, and all of a sudden you hold hands and you're already at that high. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm finally holding hands with this person. This feels amazing. And your heart's going crazy and you got butterflies and you're starting to sweat. And then they turn and they look at you and you lock eyes and they tell you that they've always liked you. They've always had a crush on you, or they've been thinking about you all day. And it's that emotional high that you know that they mean that, because they're taking an already high moment and they're propelling it even higher. They're building on top of that. That's how the foundation of love starts. Versus manipulation. Manipulation will take a low and it will try to force an emotional high into that low to bring it up to normalcy, because that's all the other person wants. All the other person is there for, the manipulator, the toxic partner, the narcissistic partner, all they are there in that relationship for is to get. They're there to take. And what they're taking is the emotional high. If that high is not there, they don't want it. That's why, now listen to me, that's why during an emotional low, they will try and force an emotional high. So what does that look like? That looks like you two getting in an argument. And during that argument, they finally tell you for the first time that they're in love with you. And it's enough to trip you up immediately. It's enough to make you pause. It's enough to make you stop dead in your tracks and be like, wait, really? And it works so well. And they know it works. That's probably what they did with all their other partners. You see, this is the only move that they really have. They don't know how to fix problems in a relationship. What they know how to do is manipulate you, because all they really want from you is the high that you give them. When it comes to actually fixing problems in the relationship, they have to rely on those moves. That's why they don't tell you that they love you whenever you're in bed with them or whenever you're having a great day with them. They save those moments. They save those highs. They have them tucked away for bad moments, for low moments, because they want to pull them out during a low moment, because that's all they're there for. They don't know how to work on relationships. They don't know how to fix anything. They know how to get the high and they know how to run. Those are the only two moves that they have. Real love doesn't confuse you. It doesn't punish you. It doesn't leave you begging for scraps of attention. Real love feels like home. It feels safe. It doesn't feel like a high. Now, you will absolutely have those high moments with your partner, but the greatest thing that a toxic partner will never understand is having those high moments with a partner that you trust with your life. And some of you watching this are going to realize that you were manipulated. But I want you to know you weren't manipulated because you were weak. You showed up as your authentic self. You said, here I am. I love you. It means you love them deeply. And that's never something to be ashamed of. Lil bro, lil sis, you've got this. And I've got you. I'll see you in the next one.